Hello, students. This is going to be the first video in a series where I demonstrate how to upload images from your digital camera. And it's going to go all the way through importing and exporting using Lightroom Classic, because that's what we use in this program. So the first thing that you need to master in your workflow is how you're going to upload from your SD card. You can either connect the camera, connect a card reader, or if your computer has an SD slot, you enter the SD card there. So mine happens to have that, and I will include illustrations of the other ways. So here's my camera. I'm going to remove the SD card. I think I just took a few pictures of my daughter. Like the light was kind of pretty, and then of course I grabbed my camera, and then it was not pretty. So the method that I teach is backing up the images first. And because a lot of students are being introduced to Adobe and to Lightroom Classic for the first time, it can be daunting. So I show what I believe to be the most simple workflow that helps you really understand where your photos are going. So now you see here my SD card popped up on my desktop. If you're on a Mac, it's going to pop up on the desktop. It should on a PC as well. If it doesn't, you need to scroll down to the bottom of your screen and choose your File Explorer. Scroll down on the left-hand menu. Underneath the C drive, you should see other alphabet letters. Your SD cards usually pop up under G or H or E, so you can select it from there as well. Then you see over here, I have 3 different hard drives. I have the computer's built-in internal hard drive, and then these 2 orange drives are external drives. So I always recommend that you have at least one 1 terabyte external drive to store your Lightroom photo, all your photos on. And I never store it on the computer's hard drive because it'll take up too much space. However, many people choose to have the Lightroom catalog on their computer hard drive and the photos on their separate hard drives. I have a source and a target. I have 2 mirrored drives that have exactly the same images. So the first thing I do is open that up where I organize everything by date. So I don't even think I have a 2025 folder right now. So in my all pictures, I would create a new folder and I'm going to call it 2025. It didn't open in all pictures, so I'm going to drag it in there. Go in there. And then now I have all my years at the top because numbers always come first. And then I'll have my 2025 folder. So to show you what some other ones look like, I usually give them a name that I'm going to remember. And then I have my raw files folder. So for this one, now I will double click to open this. I'm going to shortcut to create a new folder. And I am just going to call this, well, I'll give it, I think there are pictures of Evie. I don't know. I'll just say living room fun. In here, I usually have another set, which are the raw files. So I might just call it raw. Sometimes I duplicate a little bit from the title because if every subfolder is called raw, then if you ever try to search for the folder, you're going to get all these different folders called raw. So if you see my pathway underneath here, source photos, all pictures 2025, Evie living room fun, and then raw Evie living room. If I just named it raw, this folder would just be called raw. And then if I did that for hundreds of folders, if I went to my search bar and typed raw, all those folders would come up and it could be a little confusing to figure out what they're connected to. So from here, I have an empty folder and now I have my images on my SD card. So I'm going to double click the SD card. The DCIM folder is always going to be where your images are contained. Sometimes you will have subfolders, multiple subfolders. And in this case, this is really interesting the way my camera did this. Oh, I know why. I have, so in here, I have pictures taken from Sony And it looks like maybe some leftover pictures from a Canon. And I have not formatted the card since I shot new photos. So, oh, it looks like I took some pictures of the Helene devastation. So this is where some hundreds of soldiers were camped out playing football at the women's prison. So let's see. I'm not going to import those. I'm going to open up this folder, and these should be my most latest images, which they are. February 18th, 2025. And as you see, I have the extension .arw. That's because I shoot with a Sony camera. So that is the Sony AR raw file. So I just grab them all, select them all, and then I drag and drop them into that folder. So dragging and dropping is just a super easy visual way to see that you've got that copy. So now from here, I can close this and my SD card should be ejected. I'm going to go ahead and drag that. Well, let me let it finish. Now I'm going to drag that to eject it. If I leave that plugged in, when I open Lightroom, it's automatically going to see the SD card and it's going to want to do this automatically. I'll talk a lot about the differences there in class. But again, I'm showing you the workflow that I believe is the most safety proof. So now I have put these on my source drive in a 2025 folder. Before I go on, I make my second duplicate. So I go straight, I grab that folder and I drag it straight to my target, and I sit here and take the time, whatever it takes for it to copy. Now I have 3 places where that lives: my SD card, my source, and my target hard drives. Now I can safely format that card because you don't want to store your pictures on your SD cards. So now I have 2 backups. You can make more if you start to get, if you've got a really big job and you haven't submitted the images to the client, you might want to have a 3rd backup. Some people take it and put it in a fireproof safe. So from here, I can close those drives. Now those images live. The real images, the digital files live on 2 hard drives in raw form. From here is where you open up Lightroom. So I'm going to stop there because that should be the first step. Now, I know some of you aren't going to have hard drives yet, and you may just store it on your computer hard drive. That's fine. You just need to choose a folder that you're going to start storing these images. In Photo 110, Fundamentals, we don't shoot RAW yet. So you're going to have JPEGs. But in Intermediate and beyond, we start shooting RAW. So I want you to understand how to deal with those images and how to save them. So the last example that I'll show you here, if you're not in Lightroom at the same time as Fundamentals, keep watching. If you're only in Fundamentals, you will need to rename your files. So let's just imagine that you've got some JPEGs, like here is a JPEG and it has a crazy image name. You need to right click and rename that. So if you're on a Mac, you just right click and rename. I'm sure that the PC is very similar with right clicking and renaming. So you have to rename the file. If you want to keep one with the original file, you can duplicate it first. You could choose duplicate, and now you have a copy, and you could rename that one. You can also always just leave the original file number in there. If you want to be extra safe for the assignments, you might just duplicate stuff that you're turning in, but you must rename things before you turn them in for assignments. And I hope that's helpful. And like I said, this is just part 1. So this was just how to get the SD card images onto your computer and backed up properly.